Hey everybody! Today I am turning a chunk of wood that I got from Mike Hinman. Thank you, Mike. I don't know what it is. It does smell like maraschino cherries when it's turned, especially when I hollowed it out. It really did smell like that. It was very good smelling. So if you know what that might be, what that smell, as far as that wood goes, would you please comment below so I kind of get an idea of what it is. Anyways, I figured this would be a very good piece of wood to try out my first time casting with resin in a pressure pot. I'm using Total Boat resin, and I purchased my pressure pot from Harbor Freight, and I followed Zach Higgins' video on how to set up the fittings and everything for it to turn it into a pressure pot. If you're interested in that video, I will put it in the link to it in the description below. This is a perfect piece to try out the pressure pot on. It was very punky and had some cracks and everything in it. So right now I'm just turning it to get the paint and the sealant, off the ends, and to get it kind of round so I can put it in a bucket that I made and get it put in the pressure pot. You may have seen my other video. I give tips on how to color resin, and I use eyeshadow from the Dollar Tree. So you get tons of different cool colors for only $1, and it's so worth it. The one tip that I would give is here I put colors in my containers before I mix the resin, and some of you that do resin may have already discovered this, but whether it's eyeshadow, mica powder, or whatever else, it's nice to be able to get it all prepped and ready to go, but if you put it in the bottom, especially these cups, the color gets stuck in there. So it's best if you pour your resin and then put your color in on top of it so you can mix it better. I didn't find out until I started to pour it that there were like chunks of the color powder stuck at the bottom, and those were kind of evident in the piece. And I'll, point that out to you. So that's one thing not to do. Mix the coloring you're going to use and put it in on top of the resin instead of putting it in the cup beforehand. I thought I was trying to be smooth and prepare ahead of time, and it didn't work out. So, it worked, but I just had chunks of color. So just an FYI. You can kind of see in the cup where the pigment didn't get completely mixed in really well, but at this point it was like, well, it's already poured in there, so what are you gonna do? I had to do a second pour on this. The wood soaked it up really good, and there was cracks and it was kind of punky and everything. So I was kind of glad, because then I knew that the wood was really saturated and got it in there pretty good. So this is my first pour. I didn't show my second pour because it was just, I added 2 different colors instead of 3, just the basic teal color and white, and then poured it in on top of it. So here I'm showing you my unorganized stash of colors. My camera didn't pick up my volume or me speaking whatsoever, so I'm just chatting away and nothing's picking up, but I need to organize my stuff. Anyways, that's how I keep it in that container I got from Harbor Freight. And you see here my shop spiders. Oh gosh, I hate spiders. They're so huge and they're all over the place. But I figured I'd show you I had company. This is after my first pour. The wood, like I said, soaked up all the resin. I didn't show the process of me doing the second pour. I just mixed up enough, filled it up, put it in there for about another 5 hours, and then pulled it out. Well, I didn't learn until afterwards that you needed to leave it in there for 24 hours with resin and wood, because the wood expanding. So you'll see kind of what happened, and it almost became a fail. So I'm getting down into the resin with my gouge, and as you can see, it looks like shattered glass. And I was like, oh no, what am I doing wrong? I tried sharpening my gouge again and going at it again, and just, you know, taking lighter cuts, because I am kind of used to cutting green wood, and so I just trying to go back over it smooth, and it was still just shattering like glass. I was like, oh no, I gotta call Doug. So I messaged Doug, and he recommended me using a negative rake carbide tip, so, or negative rake scraper. I put it on the shelf and kind of was like, it's done. It's cracked because I didn't leave it in there for 24 hours. So I left it for about 5 days or so. Decided to come back out and give it another try. So I'm glad I did. So as you can see, the negative rake is cutting it like butter, the resin like butter, and I am so happy that I put it back on there and worked it out. Was thrilled that it was working so well. So Doug, thank you so much for all your help and your advice. And thank you Total Boat for the resin for giving me the opportunity to try this out. It is just too fun turning resin and wood. Now this particular piece, of course, it's my first time casting in a pressure pot, you know, a large piece like this. I didn't really care for how the wood kind of shone through the resin. It's not the most prettiest thing you've ever seen. So that's the only thing I don't like about it, is just how the wood is sitting in the resin. But for my first time and getting used to the resin and the pressure pot, and of course, you know, practicing a little patience with it, I think next time it'll be so much funner. Currently I have like 4 projects in the pressure pot right now, so I cannot wait to get those on the lathe and turn them. I think it's just so fun. So I purchased on Amazon some sanding, I guess they call them micro mesh pads. I started at 320. I didn't sand with any other sandpaper. I started at 320 with these foamy sanding pads. And it goes all the way up from 320 to I think 3500. And I just get a spray bottle of water, spray it on there, sand it and wipe it off like in between the sand just to get the extra stuff off. Really loved how this turned out, and you'll see the nice shine that it gave the resin. I'll put a link in the description below to all the products that I used, including the sanding pads and the polish and everything else. That way you guys can check that out and see if it's something that you might be interested in using as well. This is NOVUS or NOVUS, I'm not sure how to say it, but it is a plastic polish that I got on Amazon. Like I said, I'll put the link below in the description for that product. It came in a 3-part set, like heavy scratch and then fine scratch, and then the polishing cleaner and polisher spray, which I used. I just didn't notice. I used here, but I didn't notice any difference in the shine with it. So I did finish it off with my OB Shine Juice. The wood definitely needs, something, so you have to keep in mind that you have wood and resin in there, so you have to kind of address both of those elements in there, which is fine because the plastic polish gave it a really wonderful polish. I was so excited when I seen that. And then, of course, the OB Shine Juice just sets it all off and seals the deal on it. So, turned out beautiful as far as that goes.
A man who lived in dreams. That's who he was.
I'm going in steps with my Forstner bit because that very first top layer is all resin, and being that I had chip out problems with my gouge, and when I first tried turning it, I was afraid that trying to take too much at once would cause it to like break up or possibly chip. I wasn't sure if there was cracks in it, so that's me being cautious here, I guess, as much as I could be. So that's why you see me putting another Forstner bit and another Forstner bit, because I'm working it up. That's just the first, half inch or so of resin in there, and I just was afraid that it would chip out. I'm using my bowl gouge here, and I switched to my Carbide tip because right underneath there's just plywood I put in for filler, and I'm trying to get all of that out. I decided to go back to my negative rake scraper because you can just feel it, chipping away at that resin. I didn't want to crack that rim and have to redesign the whole bowl, so I just use my bowl gouge for the wood, and then as soon as I get down into the resin again, I use my negative rake. Thank goodness it was just around, not thank goodness, but for the sake of me and my inexperience with it, the rim was just with the resin and the rest of it was the wood. So I was able to use my bowl gouge to hollow it out, everything below that rim. I did have some spots where the hot glue that I hot glued my waste block, I guess you could say, in there had, spread out a little further into the rim, so I had a couple of voids that I just kind of cut out, and then I was able to sand them out when I was finished. So it ended up working out. It wasn't too bad, but that's what I did. I just went ahead and used my negative rake scraper, and then used my bowl gouge, and here I'm using my regular Carbide to finish hollowing it out, just to play it on the safe side so I didn't crack or chip that resin anymore. The wobble in my lathe is definitely still there, more so in one chuck that I use over the other, but in this resin project I could definitely tell, because just like one half of it would have like hammered looking marks in it, and this is all dried, not moving. I would expect that, of course, with wet wood, and that's another reason why I don't notice it as much in my wet wood projects as I do my dried, because the wood is already moving, because it's wet, my green wood projects. But when I get projects like this, it's very disappointing and aggravating because I'm reminded that it's definitely there. I did just go ahead and sand it out. You might be able to see it when I stop the lathe towards the end of the turn. I just sand it out and move on because Laguna promised me, it's been about a month ago, a new headstock, and they have not yet to send me one. I've emailed them. I've had to reach out to them and contact them on updates on what's going on with that. And supposedly they're testing the new headstocks they got in, and mine is first to go out, supposedly. So we'll see.